everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us today. We're so excited to have you with us all. I'm Haiti, and I'm thrilled to be your host. And before we get started, I just want to make sure that everyone can hear me and see my screen. So if you can let me know in the chat, we would greatly appreciate it. Wonderful. Thank you so much. And while you're in the chat, if you can just let us know where you're all tuning in from. Always love to hear where everyone is coming in from today. Great. Awesome. Wonderful. Well, welcome to you all. Today, we'll be diving into the world of assessments and early learning, why they matter, how to use them effectively, and how Brightwheel's experience assessments make it easier than ever to track progress, empower teachers, and engage families, all while seamlessly fitting into any curriculum. And with that, let's get started. And let's quickly go over our agenda. First, we'll begin with some housekeeping details about today's raffle, followed by our main presentation with Kelly, Leah, and Stephen. And lastly, we will conclude with a link to your certificate of attendance and some helpful next steps. Some quick housekeeping notes for you all. We will email you the recording of today's session by tomorrow. So no worries if you need to leave early, pick up the phone, if you have to attend to a child, or if you want to share this with anyone else on your team, you will be able to do so. You can rewatch it again and take in all the goodness. So that recording will be made available to you soon. And then for the live Q&A, just make sure to use the Q&A button, which is different from the chat where you were earlier sharing where you're coming from, and if you can hear me and see me, we want to make sure that you put all of our questions in the Q&A section to make sure that we can see them. So please do that. And at the end of the webinar, you'll be given a certificate of attendance. So whether you're watching with us now or sometime in the future, just watch all the way into the end and we'll give you that link. And then for today's raffle, if you're attending live, your name is automatically entered into a raffle for a chance to win one of two Experience Curriculum Play Kits valued at $200. Two winners will be randomly selected and emailed. Okay. And if you're just joining us, thank you so much for being with us today. We're excited to have you with us and explore the important role of assessments in early education. These assessments are more than just a tool. They're a way to understand each child's growth, support their unique learning journey, and strengthen their connection between teachers and families. So we also know that assessments can sometimes feel a little overwhelming, especially with the many demands of the classroom. And that's why Brightwheel's experience assessments are designed to simplify the process, making it easier to track progress, empower your teaching team, and engage families, all the while working seamlessly with any curriculum that you're currently using. So let's dive in and hear from our speakers. Kelly, are you ready to join us?
I'm ready. Thank you,
Hi.
Haiti. We wanted to start with a quick poll to understand some of the pain points you all experience around assessments today. So we'll launch it on the screen. And if you can, just please select your program's biggest pain point. We understand there might be multiple, but what's the main thing holding your program back around assessments? Is it finding time to do them consistently, knowing what standards or frameworks to use, using the data to inform instruction, sharing progress with families, finding an affordable solution? And throughout our webinar today, we'll share how experience assessments can help address some of these challenges you're experiencing. Just give a couple seconds. Right. Are we able to see the results? There we go. Wow. So we have a winner. Finding the time to do them consistently. Yes, timing, especially in early education, childcare programs. We wish we had more time in the day for all of the things that we have to do. So thank you so much. All right, we can go to the next slide. So when we talk about assessments, we're not just talking about compliance or paperwork, though we know those things are important in our programs. Assessments really help us understand what skills we should be observing for and how children are learning and growing in our program. And they allow us to track child progress across different domains of learning and development. So for example, if a toddler is showing persistence in solving puzzles and problems, we can celebrate that and encourage teachers to offer even more challenging problem-solving activities. Assessments also guide our teaching and help plan instruction. So, for example, if a preschooler needs support with letter recognition or letter sounds, we can make small adjustments to our instruction, maybe put more letter activities in our centers or in circle time. They also support early intervention. So, for instance, if an older child isn't counting yet, and their peers in their classroom are, we can really provide more support for that child during small groups or throughout the day to support them. And finally, assessments strengthen family partnerships. So simple updates such as, your child zipped up your jacket for the first day. They're really mastering those fine motor skills. That really helps to build relationships and trust with families and their child care providers. So, how do we make sure assessments are meaningful and not just one more thing to do? We talked about you've identified timing as an issue, as a pain point. And there's sort of four guiding principles here. So, first, assessments should be ongoing and authentic. So, meaning we capture learning as it happens naturally during play or during daily routines. So, for example, you might notice a child sorting blocks by size during center time, and writing that down or taking a quick note or a picture, that counts as as an authentic observation. We've noticed something there. Second, assessments should be strengths based. This means focusing on what children can do and not just what they can't do. And by highlighting their abilities, educators really build a positive narrative around each child's learning journey. Jersey. And third, assessments need to be culturally responsive. So if a child shows pride in sharing something unique about their family or their community, that's an important moment to recognize. It reflects the child's identity, their connection to their background, and their willingness to communicate with others. So documenting these moments help us honor the whole child and really see their development from all domains of learning. And finally, assessments should be action oriented. And the observations and data we collect really only matters if we use it, right? So we really want it to help inform our teaching, our materials in the classroom, and the experiences that we're giving the children to support their growth. And what makes the assessment process effective is having that clear framework. So to connect the observations to a skill back to that developmental domain. And with that in place, directors and admin, you can see patterns across classrooms, which can be super powerful. So, for example, noticing that several classrooms are showing growth in language, but maybe not as much in math. It can also help coaches and admin guide future lesson planning or professional development for teachers. So now that we've covered the why behind assessments and the guiding principles that make them effective, I'm super excited to introduce you to experience assessments. Experience assessments is built right into Brightwheel, which means teachers can access different learning frameworks such as Head Start or state standards. Educators can also pull insightful reports, and we'll show you those later in the webinar, by child or by classroom. And experience assessments also includes an authentic developmental assessment built on the experience developmental continuum of skills. Such a mouthful every time I say it. And we'll dive deeper into the authentic assessment over the next several slides so you can really see what it's all about. So we can go to the next slide. And one of the biggest concerns we hear from directors is alignment. So how do we know these assessments meet the standards our state requires? And I'm happy to share that experience assessments are aligned with early learning standards in all 50 states, as well as Head Start and NAEYC guidelines. And it's also backed by the science of reading research, which strengthens early literacy. And that's something that is often a top priority, especially right now in our education climate. It's a top priority for states for quality ratings and accreditation systems. The experience assessment system is built on the developmental continuum of skills, and you can see all of it here. We do not expect you to read this tiny print, but just wanted to give you a clear picture of what it is. It organizes learning domains and skills in a way that's easy to track. And the continuum covers skills from infancy through age 8. And as administrators, you can use this to track consistency across classrooms and over time to track growth while ensuring every developmental domain is covered. And we'll look at those domains next. So the continuum is organized into 8 domains, each one covering a critical area of child development. These will be very familiar to you. As we said, they're aligned to state standards, so they might be called a little bit different, but um, these are what we see typically. So social and emotional development includes things like conflict resolution, building positive relationships, self-awareness. Approaches to learning focuses on persistence, flexibility, and curiosity. Physical development, we cover fine motor, gross motor, as well as personal care, safety, and nutrition. Language and literacy looks at early reading skills, writing, and communication. Mathematics includes counting, sorting, shapes, and recognizing patterns. And science focuses on observations, questioning, and really exploring their natural world. Social studies looks at understanding community and rules as well as geography. And finally, creative arts encourages expression through music, art, and drama. So we cover everything with this one. We can go to the next slide. Each domain is broken down into 36 skills and 73 sub-skills within those domains. And this level of detail really allows educators to capture very specific learning moments. Instead of just saying a child demonstrates number sense, we can record that they count objects up to 10 with one-to-one correspondence. And that really makes our observations more meaningful and precise. And for directors, this means you'll have richer program-wide data to see where children are thriving and where teachers may need to provide a little extra support. So let's take a little closer look at an example of a subskill and think of them as building blocks for mastery. So for example, the broad skill of number sense is broken into smaller subskills like recognizing numerals, counting sets, and comparing quantities. And this really helps educators focus on one piece at a time instead of trying to measure this very complex skill all at one time. And for administrators, sub-skills make progress more visible. So if several children are showing readiness and recognizing numerals, for example, you could support teachers by providing math manipulatives or designing small group activities to teach and extend that specific skill. So the next piece of the continuum is the benchmarks. So this example shows benchmarks for the social emotional subskill SED1A, knows self and expresses confidence. And benchmarks show the typical developmental progression for a skill across age levels. So for instance, infants might respond to name by smiling, exploring their hands. Toddlers might recognize themselves in a mirror. And preschoolers might describe their own strengths and talents. And you can see that each step builds and shows growth in self-awareness. Benchmarks also remind us that every child develops at their own pace, but they give teachers and families a roadmap of what is coming next so that we can be prepared and support their growth. Benchmarks are also powerful tools during family conferences. So teachers can show parents not just where their child is, but where they're headed next. And that can help build confidence and partnerships with families in your program. So we've looked at sort of the developmental continuum, and now I'm going to turn it over to Leah, our assessment and content developer, and she's going to dive into more of the research behind this assessment.
Thank you, Kelly. Okay, so now that we have a good idea of what the experience assessment system is, let's talk a bit about the research behind it. Experience assessments is built on a research-based learning framework. The latest research and theories in the field of early childhood education were used to build and revise this learning framework. Kelly walked us through the domains, the 36 skills, and mentioned those 73 sub-skills that make up the framework. These are the skills that research correlates with school success. You can visit our research foundation if you want to learn a little bit more about that. This research-based framework has been confirmed to be both valid and reliable by a renowned third-party research institution. What does that mean for educators? It means that they can have confidence that the milestones they're documenting genuinely reflect each child's developmental progress. Let's talk a little bit about what those terms mean, validity and reliability. When we talk about the validity of an assessment, we are saying that the assessment accurately measures what it is designed to measure. For example, if you have a child name letters on flashcards every morning with the letters in the same order each time, that may not measure the child's true ability to identify letters, but rather memory skills and verbal ability. A valid assessment is going to measure exactly what it says it measures. When we talk about an assessment's reliability, we are saying that the assessment provides consistent results across time and settings. One example of reliability might be if two different teachers observe the same child at the same time. We're going to expect them to rate the child's behavior in the same way. In other words, subjectivity is limited. A reliable assessment will provide consistent results. Both validity and reliability are critical. Otherwise, data can be misleading for educators and families. Again, we want educators to be able to have confidence that the milestones they document as they observe genuinely reflect each child's developmental progress. And families should be able to trust that as well. You may be wondering how we establish validity and reliability for the experience assessment system. So let me tell you. This past spring, we partnered with a research institute to evaluate the assessment. The study included an expert review of the assessment, as well as the analysis of observation data documented by partner programs. The partner programs included both programs implementing experience curriculum and programs implementing a different curriculum. Collectively, these programs logged observations for over 500 children. And what were the results? In terms of validity, the expert review highlighted that the assessment was grounded in established early childhood development theories, such as Vygotsky, Piaget, and Montessori. It also confirmed comprehensive domain coverage, specifically highlighting the robust integration of social, emotional, and behavioral skills, which we know are a cornerstone of early childhood development. The data showed that average scores increased as the ages of the children went up, which is what we would expect to see. This confirms validity, or as I explained earlier, that the assessment is measuring what it is designed to measure. We also saw strong evidence of reliability or consistency across settings. One of the ways the researchers measured reliability was by calculating a value known as Cronbach's alpha for each domain. Cronbach's alpha is a value that has a maximum of 1, but really anything above 0.70 is considered acceptable. The values for all 8 domains were above 0.90, which is considered excellent. We were very excited about that. We also saw consistent results across age groups and curricula. Together, these results tell us that our assessment meets and exceeds psychrometric standards. We'll link the report in the chat for anyone who wants to look into that a little bit more. Not only does the experience assessment system have all of this great research behind it, it was also created to be easy to use. The Brightwheel app makes it possible to document observations in real time, which we'll talk more about in a few minutes, and experience assessments can be used with any curriculum. Access to the Experience Assessment Framework, otherwise known as the Developmental Continuum of Skills Framework, is part of Experience Assessments. It also comes with access to the Experience Assessment User Guide and on-demand training. For those who also implement experience curriculum, you'll notice that the assessment system is built directly into the activities for all age groups. So this includes experience baby, experience toddler, and experience preschool. So what's next in terms of research? Brightwheel is currently conducting another study for the 2025-2026 school year. We will be further evaluating reliability and validity, as well as refining training and implementation supports. It is our hope that you see how committed we are to continuous improvement and ensuring accurate, fair assessments across all classrooms. We are going to turn it over to Stephen now to show us what experience assessments looks like in Brightwheel.
Great, thank you, Leah. So Haiti, I will go ahead and share my screen. All right. Can folks see my screen?
Yes. Thank you, Stephen.
Great. Perfect. Thank you. All right. So for those of you that haven't seen this before, this is the Brightwheel platform on the web. We also have a mobile app as well, where you can do all of the different functions I'm sharing today, but just for ease of sharing and just honestly sharing a bigger screen, I'm just going to do it all on the web. So as part of this, what I want to do first is show you how to actually log an observation. We've been talking about a lot of collecting this data, logging these observations, and I know this was a big part that everyone thought was really important when we first asked the poll. And so there's two ways you can log an observation. The first way is doing it through a learning activity. So as you can see here, I'm on the Learning tab and I'm on my overview screen, which shows you all of my lesson assignments by room. So I have my preschool classroom, and you can see I have all my lesson plans for each individual week. I'm going to start by going into this first lesson plan, Exploring Outer Space. Now, this is a lesson plan that I created for myself. So it's my own do-it-yourself DIY lesson plan. You can create these easily here on the Brightwheel platform by going to the Library tab. But you see all the different days of the weeks, the different topics that I'm going to be covering. In this case, for this week, the theme is going to be Exploring Outer Space. And so as I'm going down, you see all the different activities broken down into different areas. So I have my first story time activities, then I have math, STEAM stations, I got my outdoor movement activities, and finally arts and crafts at the end of the day. So as I'm going throughout my day, of course, I'm going to be referencing all these different learning activities. And once I'm in the different learning activities, so let's click on one, for example, called Counting Craters. This is going to be my math activity for Thursday. And once you open up the learning activity, you're going to see a description of the activity itself. So everything that the students and children are going to be doing. You're going to have a little bit of note of an observation. I put here, this is what I should be keeping an eye out for. You're going to see any notes that you put in here and any skills that you added that are part of this learning activity. So now that I've gotten a good feel for it, I'm ready to capture my observations. I'm going to click on this Add Observation button. I'm immediately going to be taken to this screen where I'll be able to select the students that are going to be part of this observation. So you'll see all the students in your particular classroom. In this case, I'm just going to select two students. I'm going to select Kermit and I'll select Layla. So over here, you're going to see all of the different skills that you're going to be logging on the observation for. If you already made your learning activity, these would have been pre-populated already with the skills you had selected. But let's say you've discovered new skills that you wanted to capture as part of this learning activity. You would just click this Add Skills button, and you're going to see all of the different skills that are part of the learning framework. So over here, you got all those different learning domains that Kelly and Leah had talked about. So approaches to learning, creative arts, language and literacy development, all the way down over here. But in this case, let's just go ahead and add the appropriate benchmarks for each of these students. So I'll go ahead and start with Kermit for this first subskill, M1C, counting one-to-one and composing and decomposing numbers. So you'll hit the add benchmark, and there you're going to see a list of all the different benchmarks for that particular subskill. Starting from 0, which represents this child has not yet observed these, I'll call it these benchmarks on the continuum. They haven't hit a benchmark at 1. And it goes from benchmark 1 all the way down to benchmark 8, which is the oldest one over there. In this case, I'm just going to select benchmark 3, points to one object at a time while counting up to 5. I'm going to go through and select the next benchmark for my next student, Layla. I'll hit add benchmark and I'll do the same thing. And let's say in this case, Layla was at a benchmark of 4, counts up to 10 objects and indicates that the last number counted tells how many objects were counted. Select that, and then I'll move down to the next subskill. Do the same thing, so I'll select the benchmark, and I'll just go down through the list just to complete this observation. Then down at the bottom, there's a couple things you can do. You can add any notes. So this will just add any additional notes you want to share internally with your team or with families as well. So I'll just say they did a great job with today's activity. And if you're on your mobile phone, you can also attach a photo or a video as well to just make this a more complete observation. Last thing you can do is you can either decide if you want to share this observation just internally with staff only by checking this box, or if you want to share it with families as well, and it goes directly into their feed in the Brightwheel app. In this case, I'll leave it open so families can view the observation, and I'll click this Add Observation button. And there you go. That's how you log an observation through a learning activity. So I'll go back one more time, and we'll do it one more time again. But this time, for those of you that have experienced curriculum, I'll show you what it's like to do it through a learning activity with experienced curriculum. Now, as a reminder, as they talked about earlier, you can use our experience assessments product with or without experience curriculum. The tools and everything that you're seeing here can work with any third-party curriculum, whether you have it in the Brightwheel app or if you're just using the Brightwheel app to supplement the curriculum. So let's go down. Today's Wednesday, and we'll scroll down to Parent Dance, the start activity. For those of you that are less familiar with experience curriculum, there's going to be a start activity 1 to 2 times per day. Those star activities are a good indicator of learning activity where you should capture an observation for. The reason we do that is because if you capture all observations for those start activities, over the course of a 3-month period, you'd have actually captured an observation for every single subskill in our learning framework. So it makes it nice and easy just so you don't have to think about when to capture an observation. You can build the right habits, the right consistency, and make sure you're capturing observations for all those subskills at the appropriate frequency. So it'll be the same thing here. You're going to see all the details for this learning activity. And when you're ready, you're going to click on this Add Observation button. Over here, you're going to select the students again. So let's just do one to make it nice and easy. And you're going to see the specific subskill you're ready to capture that observation for. You can always add more. And then you can select the benchmark. So we'll just make it easy. Let's select benchmark 4 in this case. It demonstrates multiple ways to move body parts, moves to the beat. And for the next one, SED3B develops relationship with peers. Let's say we're familiar with this one, and they're also at a benchmark 4, engages in interactions with peers and has preferred friends that they play with consistently. Can decide if you want to share this just with staff or internally, and you're going to hit the Add Observation button, and that'll log the observation. So there you go. 2 different ways to log an observation through a learning activity. One we've done with Experience Curriculum, and one we've done with our own DIY curriculum we created right here in the Brightwheel app. Now, for a lot of folks on this call, I know that you're not going to have Experience Curriculum, and you may not necessarily have a curriculum set up on the Brightwheel app. So we also have additional ways to log an observation outside of a learning activity. And so I'll go over here and I'll just show you one way to do it on the web. Keep in mind, it's actually a lot easier to do it on your mobile app, whether that be on a phone or whether that be on a tablet as well. So you're going to go down to your room and then you're going to hit this Add Activity button. Once you do that, you're going to see a bunch of different activities you can select from. If you're familiar with Brightwheel Premium, you've probably seen these activities before. But the one we're most interested in is this observation button over here. So I'm going to click on Add Observation, and you're basically going to be taken to that same screen, except it's going to be completely blank. So over here, you're going to be able to select the different students that you're logging this observation for. You can adjust the date and time, and you're going to start by adding the skills you selected. So we'll go through here. We got our learning framework selected. This is Experience Developmental Continuum, the learning framework we've been talking about. And let's say we were doing an art activity. So I'm just going to select these 2 skills. For example, expresses through 2D and 3D visual art and develops visual art techniques. You can select as many different subskills as you want over here, but for sakes of simplicity, let's just select these 2. So I'll hit done. And the same thing you're going to do before. You're going to add benchmark. So you'll scroll down, select the appropriate benchmark, go on to the next skill. You're going to hit add benchmark, select that. You can add any notes. You can add any photos, videos, and you're going to hit add observation. And that's it. So a nice, easy way to capture an observation outside of a learning activity. This is great when you want to kind of capture those spontaneous moments where you're witnessing a particular subskill with a different student, and you really want to capture that moment right then and there. So those are just a couple of different ways you can log an observation and capture all of that data. Now I'm going to show you how to actually make use of all of those observations in some of our new assessment reports. So we're going to go back to this learning tab, and up top, I'm going to click on assessments. And right here, we're going to land on what we're calling the assessment status overview report. I'm logged in as an admin, so I'm seeing a lot of different students, a lot of different classrooms here. But what this does is this shows you all of the most recent observations you captured for a particular student in a particular learning domain and subskill area. So up top, you're going to see the particular domain within the learning framework. So if I click on this down arrow over here, I'm going to see all of the different domains I can select from. So we got language and literacy development selected. I'm going to click here and select mathematics. That way I just get a good sense of, what's going on with some of the other learning domains too. We'll go back to language and literacy development and just kind of dive in a little bit deeper. You got some filters up here up top. You can search by a particular student, or you can filter by a particular classroom. Let's just narrow this down to my preschool classroom, and you can see just the students for that particular classroom. You also got this date range up top. So we defaulted to the past 6 months, but let's say you want to go back a little bit further. Say I want to go back from January through June of 2025. And then this data is going to update in real time. Just go back to my most recent 6 months, and we'll dive a little bit deeper over here. So like I mentioned up top, you're going to see all of the different subskills within this learning domain. And I know a lot of you aren't going to be familiar with I'll call it the codes of the different subskills right to begin with. So if you click on one, so let's just click on LLD1A, you'll actually get a brief description of what that subskill is. So it's nice, easy, really easy to just get familiar with what that is over here. You can close that out. And then below it, you're going to see a number with a little info icon. The number you're seeing here, that's the most recent benchmark you selected for that particular student and subskill within this date range over here. And if you want to get a little bit more familiarity with what that benchmark is, you can click on it and you'll see a brief description of what that benchmark is. So in this case, it's listens, then responds appropriately. You also get some additional information. You'll see the total observations you've collected within that date range, and you also see the last observation date. So in this case, it's September 9th, so that's the most recent date within this range where I have this observation. So you got a lot of different detail on your fingertips here. You can keep on going further. You'll get all those different benchmark definitions, scores, and observation information. Let's take this one step further and click on the See More button. Now this is where it starts to get really interesting and fun. Over here, you're going to get a much more detailed view for that particular student and subskill. So over here, you're seeing this nice, what we call like visual line chart, where you actually see all of the observations you captured for that particular student and subskill over the last 6 months. So this really gives you a chance to see like how they're growing and progressing over time for at least this last 6 months. So you can see back in March of 2025, they had a benchmark of 2. We recorded another benchmark of 2 in May. We recorded a benchmark of 3 in June, July, August, and then finally in September, they got a benchmark of 4. And then if I scroll down, you'll actually see every single observation right here in all those details. So if you had any photos or videos, those would be posted over here. You can see the particular teacher that recorded the observation, the date, the benchmark that was selected. And again, if you want some additional details on what that benchmark is, just click on that button, click on that number, sorry, and you'll get that full definition of that benchmark. So this gives you a nice visual to see like how the student and child, how they're progressing over time and where they're really going. Now I'll click on done. You'll see a couple blanks. So you'll see a plus sign over here. This is just a really great indicator to show you that you actually haven't captured an observation for that particular subskill or student during this date range over here. So if I want to, I can hit on this plus button and I can start logging an observation right away. So I have the student and the skill already pre-selected. I can just add the benchmark. Let's just do this in real time. I'll hit add observation, and there you go. It's recorded right then and there. Makes it nice and easy just to record all of these different observations and just get that visual report. So that's how we have this nice status overview report. I'm going to take it one level deeper and click on a particular student. So let's click on Kermit in this case. And now we're going to get this nice visual line chart for all of those different subskills within this particular learning domain. If I want to change it, I could select, click the button, select mathematics, and it automatically updates. Let's just stick with language and literacy development over here. And you're going to see that same line chart that I showed you before for every single subskill. So you get this real nice clear line chart of how they're progressing over time. But we want to take this one step further. Let's say we don't want to just see the last 6 months. Let's say we want to see the last year and a half. So let's change this 2025 to 2024. I'll do that. And this is going to update in real time. So now I can see a multi-year view of the student. I can really see how they're growing and progressing, what milestones they're hitting, what benchmarks they're at over time across multiple classrooms. Let's take this even further. Let's go back to 2.5 years. And now I got a multi-year view for this course over a 2.5 year period. This is really great to get that full developmental view for a child that's been in your program for multiple years. And I'll call out, it doesn't matter that if they've spanned across different rooms, different teachers, All that matters is that you're capturing that information and that data in one place, and we can really show that growth over time. So hopefully, as you get a child, as they're entering their first, call it like baby classes with you, and they're kind of graduating as like a preschooler, you see a really nice line chart going all the way maybe from a 0 up to maybe a 6 or 7 or 8. And it's really fun to just see that growth over time. You can see it for every different sub skill, and you can also share that with families and parents too. So you really get that great view, and you can use this information to help you track how are my different students growing, where are they developing. You can also use this to identify, if I just go back, I'll just narrow this down to my preschool room again, you know, which students have all these different observations captured, which ones are missing observations, which ones are, where are strengths emerging for particular sub skills, where are weaknesses emerging, and then you can use this information to really tailor your lesson plans. So I can take this information and let's say I'm recognizing I'll just switch to a different learning domain. Let's go to science, for example, noticing that I'm missing all observations for this one over here. So maybe that means I want to plug in a new learning activity for science in my next day's lesson plans, just to make sure I'm capturing that data and working on those particular subskills with my student in my classroom over here. We got a couple of other options I'll click over here. You have the select an action button. So let's say, for example, you're not using this particular learning domain. Let's say, or sorry, learning framework, you're using a different one. If you click on change learning framework, you'll see all the different learning frameworks you have selected for your particular classroom. Let's just select early learning. I'll click on save, and this will update here. Of course, this is all blank. I don't use this learning framework, but it just goes to show you how easily you can switch it up. So if you're using a particular, let's say, a state learning framework, or you're just using our default experiments developmental continuum 2025, you're going to get all that information right over here. So there you go. That's a quick overview on the different ways you can log an observation and how you can use some of our initial reports just to track on how your students are growing and developing, and how you can use this to tailor all of your different lesson plans for your particular students and your classrooms. We got a lot of additional features we didn't cover here and ones we're working on right now, additional reports, additional ways to share this information with families, and just make sure we're giving you the right feedback. So it's one, saving you a lot of time, to providing you with all the information and guidance that you need to help tailor your lesson plans for each individual student. And 3, at the end of the day, just making sure we're helping you develop your children, develop your students, making sure they're hitting the appropriate milestones, they're growing, and making everything super successful over there. So I will stop sharing my screen. And like I mentioned, I was just focused in particular on the web experience. Everything I showed you, especially the logging observation aspect, you can do that much more simply through your mobile device, whether that be a mobile phone or tablet. We make it easy to log an observation with just a couple clicks of a button. Cool. All right. So Haiti, if you want to share your screen, I'll just wrap it up with a couple observation best practices, tips, and tricks. So one, always want to encourage ongoing and consistent observations. I know it seems like a lot of work at first, but observations should be happening all the time. You should be capturing these every single day. And once you start building the right habits of taking notes, snapping photos, writing down those direct quotes, you're going to start building a treasure chest of all these observations. And 1, it's going to be really helpful just to track that growth and progress. 2, it's going to make it nice and easy to share with family. But 3, more importantly, it's going to give you that information you really need to help you understand where those strengths are emerging, where weaknesses might be coming up, and really how to tailor those lesson plans. That's number 1. 2, we make it really easy to keep families engaged. As I showed you with logging and observation in particular, you have the option to share that observation directly with the family. So it drops in their feed in the Brightwheel app. And this is just going to keep them engaged and excited. Parents love getting those updates on a daily basis for what their children are working on, what activities they're participating in. So sharing those observations with them really keeps them engaged and keeps them excited and happy with everything going on. So that's number 2. Number 3, use the information from observations to inform lesson plans. Observations help teachers to understand where students are at, which subskills are emerging strengths, which are falling behind. But also at the end of the day, you saw with that overview report, it really helps you understand where you're missing observations too, and where you should be tailoring your lessons to make sure you're capturing all of those and also working on those particular subskills. So using all that information, all that data, those reports, It just helps you to approach each lesson plan in a way that is going to be most beneficial for all of your children in your classrooms and making sure you're supporting their development. And then finally, and what I would say is one of the most important things is celebrate the strengths and growth. You're going to see them jumping up from one milestone benchmark to the next, and that's just really exciting. So it's always nice to just see that recognition of moving from one number to the next and celebrating with the children, celebrating with their families, and recognizing that they've hit that new milestone and benchmark. So a lot of tools and tricks that we can go on and on about. I will pause here. We're going to have time for questions at the end where we can dive deeper into this, but for now, Haiti, I'm going to pass it back to you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Stephen. Really appreciate that walkthrough. And so if you're a current Brightwheel user and would like to learn more about experience assessments, please visit our learning tab within Brightwheel. And if we have piqued your interest in experience curriculum, you can also find information in the learning tab as well. Everyone will receive a follow-up email with the recording, and there'll be additional information and next steps to help you get started with experience assessments. So stay tuned for that email. And if you have questions at any time, please contact our assessments team directly at the email that we will provide for you in the link and also that you see on your screen, assessments@mybrightwheel.com. Thank you so much for attending our webinar. I'm excited to share your certificate with you now. We're going to go ahead and share a link for you in the chat. And that link will take you directly to the PDF of your certificate of attendance. And you'll notice that when you click on this link, you'll have the opportunity to type in your name. You can then download it or print it out for your records. I'm going to hang out here for just 1 minute to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to click on this link. If by any chance you happen to be on your mobile device today watching us, no worries. Your certificate may not work, and that's okay. I will go ahead and provide the certificate for you in the upcoming webinar follow-up email that will also contain next steps and the recording. And if for whatever reason you're also having trouble even using or clicking or accessing the certificate at this time, again, no worries. You will have access to that a little bit later on in the day. Wonderful. So hopefully everyone has had a chance to click on that link. Moving on to our survey. We're so thankful for you joining us today and for the valuable feedback that you will provide for us in the survey. That's a nice plug for you to just share your feedback. Let us know what you loved about today's session, what could improve for next sessions that are coming up. It's only about a minute or two, the survey, and it will just help us to understand how we can bring more valuable webinars to you in the future. More than anything, our goal is just to continue to provide great and helpful webinars for you. So let us know by filling out the survey. We would greatly appreciate it. And I know we shared a lot today and there's a lot to take in. So we want to share once more this slide with you to ensure that everyone is ready for their next steps. If you're a current Brightwheel user and would like to learn more about experience assessments, please visit our learning tab within Brightwheel. Also, if we've piqued your interest on experience curriculum and you're not yet using experience curriculum, you can also find more information in the learning tab. And for everyone, please keep an eye out for our webinar follow-up email. There will be additional information, next steps, as well as your certificate and the recording for today. And if you have questions for us at any time, please don't hesitate to reach out to our assessments team directly at assessments@mybrightwheel.com. Okay, so we've reached the very end. Thank you so much for joining us. We sincerely appreciate all the hard work that you do, and we hope to see you again at a future Brightwheel webinar. Thank you all. Have a great day.